The evolution of humanity, from primates to Homo sapiens. Millions of years of evolution have led to who we are today. Discover the incredible journey from the first primates to modern Homo sapiens. Hello everyone! Today we're diving into the most captivating story ever told, the story of ourselves. It began millions of years ago, long before writing existed. To truly understand who we are, we need to look back and trace the incredible path that brought us here. Imagine a massive family tree where each branch represents a different species. Deep in its roots, we find common ancestors with our closest relatives, primates. Yes, those monkeys and apes we see in zoos or documentaries share far more genetic material and behavioral traits with us than you might think. Humans, or Homo sapiens, are part of a large and diverse family of mammals, and within that, the order of primates. This means we share common traits and evolutionary connections with gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, and other amazing creatures. But when did our paths diverge, and what forced one of these lines to take a completely unique route? Scientists believe that the last common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees lived in East Africa about 6 to 7 million years ago. It was a creature that was neither human nor chimpanzee as we know them today, but rather a transitional species, possessing traits of both future lines. So what pushed one of these lines onto the unique evolutionary path that ultimately led to us? The answer lies in dramatic environmental changes. Africa, often called the cradle of humankind, was undergoing major climate shifts. Lush tropical forests, where our tree-dwelling ancestors felt at home, gradually gave way to open savannas, vast grassy plains with scattered groves and shrubs. This transformation was a powerful catalyst. Life in the trees, where safety and food were relatively easily available, was replaced by the need to survive and find food on the ground. This demanded completely new strategies. Perhaps the first steps towards our uniqueness were changes in diet, from predominantly fruit-based to more varied, including roots, tubers, seeds, and even scavenging or small animals. Adapting to life on the ground also pushed the development of new ways of moving. It was necessary to see predators from afar, move effectively through open spaces, carry food or offspring, and free up hands for other, more complex actions. Do you know what one seemingly simple step became a true revolution in the evolution of our ancestors, forever changing their path? In the last section, we talked about how the changing African landscape pushed our ancestors towards new ways of survival. And here we come to one of the most revolutionary moments in our history, the appearance of bipedalism, or walking upright. For millions of years, primates moved on 4 limbs, clinging to branches. But about 4 to 6 million years ago, in the vastness of East Africa, creatures began to appear that stood on 2 legs. These amazing creatures were called Australopithecines. The most famous of them is undoubtedly Lucy, an almost complete skeleton of a female Australopithecus afarensis, found in Ethiopia. Her remains, dating back to about 3.2 million years ago, eloquently testify she already walked confidently on 2 legs. Although she still possessed traits that allowed her to climb trees, Lucy's pelvic bones, the structure of her knees and feet, all this indicated adaptation to bipedalism, but not quite like ours. It was a step, but not yet a run. But why? What made our ancestors abandon their usual way of moving? The answer lies in the complex advantages that bipedalism provided in the open savannas. First, it allowed them to see better. Tall grass was not such a problem when you could lift your head and survey the surroundings in search of food, or, more importantly, spot predators from afar. Secondly, walking upright freed up hands. This is perhaps one of the most critical consequences. Now, our ancestors could carry food collected from a distance, carry offspring, defend themselves with sticks or stones, and later, create and use tools. Imagine the difference. A quadruped animal is forced to eat where it found food, while a biped can carry it to a safe place to share with the group. Third, bipedalism turned out to be more effective for thermoregulation in a hot climate. The vertical position of the body reduces the surface area exposed to direct sunlight and allows for better wind cooling the body. This was especially important when water was scarce. Of course, there were also disadvantages. Bipedalism made our ancestors slower in a sprint compared to quadrupedal predators and increased the risk of falls. Childbirth became more difficult due to the changed shape of the pelvis. However, the advantages outweighed the disadvantages. Australopithecines, with their relatively small brain, but already mastering bipedalism, became living proof that evolution is a series of compromises and adaptations. They were a bridge between our tree-dwelling ancestors and future genera that would begin to actively use their freed hands to create the world around them. This first step was not just a change in gait, it was a step into the future, opening the way for the development of intelligence, culture, and everything we call humanity. It laid the foundation for the next great chapter. This will change your understanding of how a simple stone, taken in hand, became a catalyst for the explosive development of the brain and marked the beginning of a new era, the era of the genus Homo. In the previous section, we talked about the revolution of bipedalism, which freed the hands of our ancestors, the Australopithecines, and here begins a truly exciting chapter, the emergence of a new genus, the genus Homo, and its distinctive feature, the ability to create and use tools. About 5 million years ago, in the dusty expanses of East Africa, our first true craftsman appeared, Homo Habilis, which translates to handyman. This name was chosen for a reason. It was Homo Habilis who left behind the first evidence of purposeful tool-making. These tools, known as the Oldowan culture, named after the Olduvai Gorge where they were first found, were quite simple, but their significance cannot be overstated. These were not just random stones, but specially processed boulders from which sharp flakes were chipped off by striking. These chopping tools, and flakes became indispensable helpers. Imagine our ancestors, armed with these primitive but sharp blades, could do what was inaccessible to other animals. They could butcher the carcasses of large animals left by predators, gaining access to meat and bone marrow. Bone marrow is an incredibly valuable source of fats and proteins, critical for brain development. Access to such nutritious food became a powerful stimulus for increasing brain size, which was noticeably larger in Homo habilis than in Australopithecines. The process of making tools itself required developed intelligence. It was necessary to imagine the end result in advance, choose a suitable stone, calculate the force and angle of impact. This trained cognitive abilities, developed fine motor skills, and the ability to plan. a kind of feedback loop arose. A larger brain allowed for the creation of more advanced tools, and tools, in turn, provided access to the food necessary to support and further develop a large brain. Thus, tools became not just adaptations for survival, they became a catalyst for evolution. They changed the way humans interacted with the environment, allowing them not just to adapt, but to actively transform the world around them. Homo habilis were the first engineers, the first hunter-gatherers in the full sense of the word, capable of expanding their diet and, as a result, their mental abilities. They laid the foundation for all subsequent technological achievements of humanity, proving that ingenuity is our greatest strength. From a simple stone to the most complex machines, it all started here with the first skillful hands. Imagine a cold night when ancient humans first saw flames dancing in their hands, giving warmth and protection. This spark not only lit up the darkness, it ignited a new chapter in human history, allowing our ancestors to venture out of Africa and conquer the world. In the previous section, we met Homo habilis, the first craftsman who mastered the creation of the simplest tools. But the true conquerors, those who truly expanded the horizons of humanity, appeared next. We are talking about Homo Erectus, or upright man, who lived on Earth from 1.9 million to 140,000 years ago. This was not just another species, it was a true revolutionary who changed the rules of the game. Homo erectus was noticeably larger and stronger than its predecessors. Its brain continued to increase in volume, which allowed it to think more complexly, plan ahead, and create more advanced tools, such as the famous Acheulian hand axes, universal tools for chopping, cutting, and digging. But its main achievement, which changed everything, was related to fire. Imagine an ancient night, cold, darkness, predators roam around. And then fire appears, a source of heat, light, and protection. Homo erectus's mastery of fire became one of the most fundamental breakthroughs in human history. It's not just the ability to use natural fire from lightning, but probably also the ability to maintain it, and then to obtain it. Fire gave our ancestors unprecedented control over the environment. It allowed them to warm themselves on cold nights, ward off wild animals, expanding the safe space for sleep and rest. But perhaps most importantly, fire made it possible to cook food. Roasted meat, boiled tubers. It's not only tastier, but also much easier to digest. Cooked food required less energy to digest, freeing up resources for brain development, which, as we remember, is very energy intensive. In addition, cooking food made it safer, destroying parasites and bacteria. With the acquisition of fire, Homo erectus became capable of truly grandiose achievements, the first migrations outside of Africa. These bold journeys, which began about 8 million years ago, led it to Asia, where the famous Java man and Peking man were found, and even to Europe. This was an incredible achievement, requiring adaptation to completely new climatic conditions and ecosystems. The ability to make long transitions, more effective tools, and of course, control over fire made these migrations possible. Life around the campfire contributed to the complication of social structure. Joint cooking and sharing of food strengthened ties within the group. Communication became more important for coordinating hunting for large game, training the young, and passing on knowledge. Perhaps this is where the first forms of campfire culture originated, a place where people gathered, communicated, and shared experiences. Homo erectus were not just survivors, they were the first true pioneers who not only mastered their environment, but also began to actively shape it, paving the way for all subsequent generations of humanity. Did you know that the DNA of many modern people outside of Africa contains from 1% to 4% Neanderthal genes? These incredibly hardy and intelligent hominids dominated glacial Europe for hundreds of thousands of years. But why did their trace in history suddenly break off? While Homo erectus was mastering fire and continence, another, no less amazing branch of humanity was developing in cold and harsh Europe. Homo neanderthalensis, or Neanderthals. They lived on Earth from approximately 400,000 to 40,000 years ago, and were our closest cousins, not direct ancestors, as many mistakenly believe. Their story is a story of incredible adaptation and, unfortunately, mysterious disappearance. Imagine a world gripped by ice ages. Neanderthals were true masters of survival in extreme conditions. Their physique was powerful and stocky, with broad shoulders and a barrel-shaped chest, an ideal adaptation for conserving heat. A large nose probably helped warm the cold air before it entered the lungs. They were incredibly strong, as confirmed by bone analysis, and, as studies show, had a brain that was no smaller and sometimes even slightly larger than that of modern humans. Their culture was significantly more complex than that of previous species. Neanderthals created advanced stone tools known as the Mousterian culture, sharp scrapers, spear points, which required skill and planning. They were skilled hunters, able to obtain large game such as mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, and deer, alone or in small groups. They used fire, built primitive shelters, and most importantly, cared for their relatives. Archaeological finds indicate that Neanderthals cared for the sick and injured, and also practiced ritual burials, which suggests that they had complex thinking and possibly even ideas about the afterlife or a special attitude towards the deceased. But what happened when Homo sapiens, anatomically modern humans, the ancestors of you and me, who began their expansion from Africa, came to their territory? For thousands of years, the two species coexisted in Europe and some parts of Asia. And as modern genetic studies show, they not only coexisted, but also interbred. Today, most people of non-African origin can find from 1% to 4% Neanderthal genes in their DNA. This is living evidence of their interaction. These genes may have given our ancestors adaptations to the cold or new diseases. However, around 40,000 to 30,000 years ago, Neanderthals disappear from the paleontological record. The reasons for their disappearance are still the subject of active scientific debate. Were they displaced by more numerous and possibly more socially organized Homo sapiens? Did climate change play a role to which they, despite their adaptability, were unable to adapt? Or were they assimilated, dissolving into the Homo sapiens population? It was probably a combination of many factors. The disappearance of Neanderthals is one of the most intriguing and tragic events in human history, reminding us of the fragility and unpredictability of the evolutionary path. Imagine the moment when a dazzling light flashed in the minds of our ancestors, turning a surviving hominid into a creator, thinker, and storyteller. It was not just the evolution of the body, but an explosion of the mind, which gave us language, art, and the ability to build civilizations. After the mysterious disappearance of the Neanderthals, our own species enters the stage. Homo sapiens, the wise man. Our story begins in Africa, about 300,000 years ago. Outwardly, we were slimmer, with a higher forehead and less pronounced brow ridges than our predecessors. But the main difference was not so much in physiology as in our mind, in what made us unique. This was a period that scientists call the cognitive revolution. Imagine that a powerful leap occurred in the brains of our ancestors, opening the doors to the world of abstract thinking, symbolism, and imagination. We began not just to react to the world, but to actively interpret it, create concepts, and rebuild it in our minds. The ability to think about things that are not right in front of our eyes became our superpower. The key tool of this revolution was complex language. Unlike the simple signals of animals, our language allowed us to convey incredibly complex ideas, discuss the past, plan the future, share knowledge about invisible entities or rules. This gave us the unique ability to create a shared reality, myths, religions, laws that united large groups of people, even strangers. This ability to large-scale cooperation, based on shared beliefs, became our main evolutionary advantage. It was then that art flourished. Cave paintings, such as those in Lascaux or Altamira, which are tens of thousands of years old, are not just beautiful pictures. These are evidences of deep symbolic thinking, rituals, possibly the first forms of mythology and the transmission of knowledge. Statuettes, such as the Venus of Willendorf, speak of the emergence of aesthetic feelings and, possibly, early beliefs or totemism. It was the moment when man began not only to survive, but also to express himself, to comprehend his place in the world, and to pass this comprehension on to future generations. The development of language and art went hand in hand with the formation of more complex societies. Groups became larger, labor specialization appeared, which allowed for more efficient use of resources and protection from threats. A common system of beliefs and rules strengthened social ties and allowed for the organization of collective actions on an unprecedented level. We learned to adapt to any environment, from snowy tundras to hot deserts, and, using our intelligence, began to actively modify it for our needs, and not just adapt. Homo sapiens didn't just survive. It thrived. This combination of physical adaptation, cognitive leap, complex language, and the ability to cultural creativity made us the dominant species on the planet. We became not just part of nature, but its active transformers, laying the foundations for all the civilizations and technologies that appeared in the future. It was a true dawn of humanity as we know it. We're used to thinking of evolution as the past, but what if it hasn't stopped and is only gaining momentum, shaping us right now? And are we ready to look into the future, where the very appearance and capabilities of humans may change beyond recognition, concealing both promises and dangers? We have traced the incredible path from our common ancestors with primates to the emergence of Homo sapiens, the thinking man who conquered the planet with his intelligence and ingenuity. But this is not where the story ends. Many mistakenly believe that human evolution has stopped, reaching its peak. This is far from the truth. Evolution is a continuous process, and we, Homo sapiens, continue to evolve right now, albeit in conditions that are significantly different from those that shaped our ancestors. So, how does evolution manifest itself today? Firstly, these are genetic changes that occur in our populations. For example, the ability to digest lactose in adulthood is a relatively recent evolutionary adaptation that appeared in peoples actively engaged in animal husbandry. Resistance to certain diseases, such as malaria, for example, sickle cell anemia, which provides partial protection against it, is also the result of natural selection. These changes occur at the level of genes, slowly spreading in populations. However, unlike past eras, modern human evolution is greatly influenced by our culture, medicine, and technology. We have created an environment where natural selection works differently. For example, advances in medicine allow people with genetic characteristics to survive that would have been fatal in the wild. This does not stop evolution, but changes its vector. We ourselves have become a powerful evolutionary force, shaping our own species. So what awaits us in the future? This is a question that excites the minds of scientists and futurologists. Some suggest that our brains will continue to increase, developing cognitive abilities. Others believe that we may become more physically fragile, as our dependence on technology reduces the need for physical strength and endurance. Perhaps we will see an increase in adaptations to urban conditions, changes in the immune system due to interaction with new pathogens, or even modifications related to nutrition. But the most intriguing prospect is related to directed evolution, genetic engineering, and biotechnology. We are already on the verge of being able to purposefully change our genome, edit it to prevent diseases, improve physical or cognitive abilities. This opens up both incredible opportunities for overcoming suffering and ethical dilemmas. Will we be able to create designer people? How will this affect our society and the very concept of humanity? It is also worth mentioning cyborgization and merging with technologies, implants, neurointerfaces, prostheses that surpass biological analogs are no longer science fiction. The future may bring us symbiosis with machines, which may change not only our bodies, but also our consciousness, and perhaps even the very essence of man. Human evolution is not over. It has only moved to a new, unpredictable stage where we ourselves are becoming the architects of our future, bearing enormous responsibility for what we will become tomorrow. Our journey through millions of years of human evolution has come to an end. If this incredible saga has inspired you and you want to continue unraveling the Epoch Echoes with us, subscribe to the Epoch Echoes channel and hit the like button so you don't miss new exciting discoveries.